create a sheet for your email addresses and the brothers, anybody not on the list.
Okay, Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala, thumma amma ba'd, to proceed. So today, inshallah, we will finish the book of Janaiz. Not finish. We will carry on with the book of Janaiz, or book of funerals, and we'll talk about washing and shrouding. We did start to talk about washing last time. We will finish this off and talk about shrouding, inshallah ta'ala. Imam ibn Qudamah rahimahullah in his book al-Umdat said, last time we stopped at where he started to talk about making wudu, but maybe we should just start from the beginning of washing and briefly go over what we covered in detail last time, inshallah. Last time we talked about before death, you will make talqeen. You will instruct the dying person to say La ilaha illallah. We also talked about covering the person once he had died, closing the eyes, like wrapping a bandage around the mouth to keep it closed, and making sure that that the deceased does not look disfigured, and covering with a clean sheet that is deceased. And if someone wanted to come in, because the deceased will not be on display, but if someone wanted to come in and look at them and even kiss them, then they could do this afterwards. If they are friends or family, certainly the muhrim will not have his head covered. The only exception from covering the entire body is that the one who is in a state of ihram will not have his head covered. Then, then we started to talk about washing. And Imam al-Qudamah rahimahullah said, فَإِذَا أَخَذَ فِي غَسْلِهِ سُتِرَتْ عَوْرَتُهُ. When they start to wash him, his awra should be covered. This applies to men and women, and we did talk about the awra that needs to be covered for men and women last time. ثُمَّ يَعْصُرُ بَطْنَهُ عَصْرًا رَفِيقًا. And then his abdomen should be squeezed gently, massaged firmly, squeezed gently. ثم يلف على يده خرقة فينجيه. Then the one doing the washing should wrap his hand with a cloth or wear gloves or something with a cloth and wash the private parts. The idea here is that the area, the awra, should not be touched with bare hands. The rest could be touched with bare hands, but when it comes to the awra should not be touched with bare hands. So he will wear gloves or wrap some cloth around his hand to wash the private parts. And we said that he will be covering, during the washing, he will be covering from the navel to the knee, and that is for men. And we said that it is for women as well in front, because the women are washed by women, and the awra of women in front of women, according to the majority of scholars, is still from the navel to the knee. But we said that some of the scholars said that a little bit you should be more generous with covering the women, maybe from here down to the knee. And the awra of the women is that which does not usually appear when they are at home, doing their house chores. Then Imam ibn Qudamah, so we will do this, and then after you massage the abdomen firmly or squeeze it gently, whatever stuff that comes out will need to be washed. And then you will make wudu for the deceased, ثُمَّ يُوَضِّئُهُ, because the Prophet ﷺ said to the women who were washing his daughter Zainab, ابدأنا بميامنها ومواضع الوضوء منها. Start with her right side and the places of wudu, the organs of wudu. So he will do the wudu and then do the ghusl. It's just like you do ghusl at home. You do the wudu first and then you do the ghusl to do the perfect ghusl. Perfect ghusl, sufficient to ghusl according to all of the mazahib would be to wash the entire body and do madmada and istinshaq, rinse the mouth and the nostrils, and that would be sufficient according to the four mazahib. Because the Hanbalis require the madmada and istinshaq, and the Hanafis. But the Shafi'is and Malikis do not require this. But if you do madmada and istinshaq and just stand underneath, in the shower, stand in the shower, let the water wet your entire body, do madmada and istinshaq, you could finish the sufficient ghusl in 1 minute, right? And this would be sufficient also for the deceased. But we're talking here about the good, proper, sunnah ghusl for the deceased and for the living. Your good, proper sunnah ghusl is what? To do the wudu first, and then to ta'meem ghusl al-badan, which is to wash the entire body with water. But to do the wudu first, whether or not you will wash your feet in the beginning, you could do this or that. But for the deceased, you will do the same thing. You will do the wudu first. The only exception for the deceased is that you're not going to be pouring water inside their mouth and nostrils, because that stuff will start to come out. But you will be wetting the cloth or your gloves and going like this and cleaning with your fingers the mouth and the nostrils, but you're not pouring water inside the mouth and the nostrils. The rest of the wudu is just like the wudu it's just like your regular wudu. Then Imam Qudamah said, so after he squeezed the abdomen, cleaned the site, whatever was soiled, made the wudu for the deceased, except for the madmada and istinshaq will not be by pouring water. Then you will move on to washing the entire body. And we are saying that we will start with the right side first and then the left side, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Ibda'na bimayaminiha," start with her right side. Then he said, ثم يغسل رأسه ولحيته بماء وسدر ثم شقه الأيمن ثم الأيسر ثم يغسله كذلك مرة ثانية وثالثة. Then he should wash his head and beard with water and the ground leaves of the lot tree, which is sidr. Sidr is the ground leaves of the lot tree. Why sidr? Because it has the power of cleaning the filth, and it is not tarafu. It is not like extravagant. It is not frivolous. That is why in the Hanbali madhab they discourage the use of soap. Unless there is filth that needs to be removed by soap, then they would be okay with it in this case. But generally they discourage the use of soap. It is makruh in the madhab unless there is a need for it. So they're doing this for the head, the beard, water, and sidr, the crushed leaves of the lot tree, and then the right side will be washed, and then the left side will be washed. ثم يغسله كذلك مرة ثانية وثالثة. This should be repeated a second and then a third time. Should means what? Encouraged, not wajib. Must means wajib. Throughout the book, should does not necessarily mean wajib. Should means either mustahab or wajib. Must means wajib. Okay? Should not means makruh or haram. Must not means haram. Throughout the book. So he should do it a second and a third time, because it is not required to do it a second and a third time. If one time will be sufficient, then it is sufficient. But the sunnah is to do it 3 times, up to 7 times. The sunnah is to do it 3 times, up to 7 times. What if we will come back to it. But everything is clear so far, right? Because this is, you know, it is hard to talk about washing and shrouding without demonstrating it practically. So maybe you do want to watch someone doing it, because that is how you could learn it. Yeah.
When you say entire body, is that the head again?
Yes. So the entire body, the entire right side, left side. يمر في كل مرة يده فإن خرج منه شيء غسله وسده بقطن فإن لم يستمسك فبطين حر ويعيد وضوءه فإن لم ينقي ب3 زاد إلى 5 أو إلى 7. So each time he should press the stomach with his hand, and if something comes out, that's something coming out of the anus, he should wash it off, not just wipe it, wash it off. He should then block the anus with a piece of cotton, preferably scented cotton, scented with hanut, which is, you know, a mixture of camphor and sandalwood. A mixture of camphor, kafur, and sandalwood. That's called hanut. So you scent the cotton with this, and you block the anus with it. If that does not stay in place, then with clay, tin hur, it is like sticky clay that will stop, or whatever it is that will stop the soiling. Then he should repeat his wudu. If washing 3 times does not suffice in cleaning, he should increase it to 5 or 7 times. So we're washing, you know, 3 times, that is the sunnah. 1 time, that's the mujzi or sufficient. 3 times, that's the sunnah. Up to 7 times, if we need, if there is still filth that needs to be cleaned. Every time, every wash, before every wash, you will press on the stomach to see if something comes out. If something came out, you wash this off, and you repeat the wash until 7 times. After 7 times, let's say something came out after 7 times. What are you going to do now? Huh? You wash it off. Anything that is soiled, you wash it off, and then you repeat the wudu only, not the entire washing of the body. You repeat the wudu only, not the entire washing of the body. And then that's it. You just say that, you know, we've done our best, and then you move on to shrouding. So you block the exit with whatever it is that's sticky that will stop the soiling. Do the wudu for the deceased. You do not need to repeat the wash an 8th time. If you have time and energy to do it, go ahead. It's not haram. But you don't need to repeat the washing another time after you washed 7 times. He said, ثم ينشفه بثوب ويجعل الطيب في مغابنه ومواضع سجوده وإن طيبه كله كان حسنا ويجمر أكفانه. Then he should dry him with a cloth, then perfume should be applied to his skin folds and the spots of prostration or organs of prostration, because, you know, you do this out of need or out of honoring. You honor the organs of prostration by putting tib, scenting them, and the need is the skin folds, areas that people usually would scent when they are alive. So the armpit, for instance, skin folds, you know, between the legs, skin folds. You put, you know, tib or perfume. How many times you'd put the perfume? The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man ajmara mayitan falyujmirhu salasan." Whoever perfumes a deceased body, let him do this 3 times. This applies to the shrouds and it applies to the body 3 times. You perfume 3 times. Okay, so you will dry the body after you're done with the washing. You will dry the body and you will put the perfume in the skin folds and organs of prostration. And if you perfume the entire body, it will be nice. It will be good. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, وَجَعَلْنَا فِي الْأَخِيرَ كَافُورًا أَوْ شَيْئًا مِنْ كَافُور. When he instructed them in how to wash, hadith that's reported by Bukhari and Muslim from Atiyah radiallahu anha, when the Prophet ﷺ instructed them in washing Zainab radiallahu anha, he told them, وَجَعَلْنَا فِي الْأَخِيرَةِ كَافُورًا أَوْ شَيْئًا مِنْ كَافُور. And put in the last wash, in the water of the last wash, put camphor or a little bit of camphor so that the entire body smells good. وَيُجَمِّرْ أَكْفَانَهُ, and he should also perfume the shrouds. Then he said, وَإِنْ كَانَ شَارِبُهُ أَوْ أَظْفَارُهُ طَوِيلًا أَخَذَ مِنْهُ وَلَا يُسَرِّحُ شَعْرًا. Okay, so if his mustache or nails are long, he should trim them, but he should not comb his hair. وَالْمَرْأَةُ يُضَفَّرُ شَعْرُهَا ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُونٍ وَيُسْدَلُ مِنْ وَرَائِهَا. A woman should have her hair braided into 3 braids and placed behind her. So for the man or the woman, the woman will not have a mustache, but if the nails are too long, they can be trimmed. For the man or the woman, if the mustache of the man is too long, it can be trimmed. The trimmings will be kept inside the shrouds to be buried with him, not thrown in the garbage. Kept inside the shroud to be buried with him or her. The hair should not be combed. Why should you not comb the hair? Because it falls out or falls off when you do this. So you do not want to do that. So you should just leave it and try to basically fix it with your hands, but you should not comb it. And the woman should have, should means what? Mustahab. Okay. Should have her hair braided, 3 braids, because that is what they did. Atiyah said they did to Zainab radiallahu anha, the daughter of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, and then he said, ثم يكفن في 3 أثواب بيض. ثم يكفن في 3 أثواب بيض ليس فيها قميص ولا عمامة يدرج فيها إدراجا. Which means, now we're done with washing. Washing is clear, right? We will wash up to 7 times. 1 is enough, 3 is the sunnah, 7 is the best, but we will wash up to 7 if it is needed to remove the filth, but we're not required to wash more than 7, although it is allowed. Every time we're washing, we're pressing the abdomen. If something comes out, you repeat the wash. After 7 times, you're not repeating the wash anymore. You're not required, but you're required to repeat the wudu if something comes out, and you block the exit with something sticky. Then we're talking about shrouding now. Both washing and shrouding and the funeral prayer and the burial, all of these are considered to be what? Communal obligations. Furud kifaya. Furud kifaiya or furud kifaya, communal obligations. Communal obligations are more important than tatawwu or nawafil or supererogatory actions. Right or wrong? Right. Some of the scholars even went as far as saying that communal obligations are more reward-worthy and more important than individual obligations. Who said that? Imam al-Haramayn, rahimahullah ta'ala, al-Juwayni, rahimahullah ta'ala, said that they are more important than individual obligations and they are more reward-worthy. How could they be? He said because when you perform or fulfill your individual obligations, you relieve yourself from sin. When you perform or fulfill the communal obligations, you relieve all the ummah of sin. Which one is better? To relieve the whole ummah? But certainly, if there is a conflict, you have to take care of your individual obligation first before the communal obligation, because you are specifically, particularly you, Hassan, are required to do this. So you take care of it. Takes precedence. Okay, so this is another communal obligation or fard kifaya, takfeen. And this also has to do with, this has to do with our belief that human beings are not just about the physical matter, they're not just about the flesh and blood. There is more to human beings than the flesh and blood. We're not Benthamite utilitarians. We are not saying that this is like waste, because this like do the least possible to basically dispose of this creature. We're not saying this, because we're saying that we must honor the dead, because there is more to human beings than just the physical matter or the body or the flesh and blood. So all of this and all of the care and all of the compassion and all of the love that we show in this process is our testimony that we believe there is a hereafter. There is more to humanity than just the flesh and blood. ثم يكفن في ثلاثة أثواب بيض ليس فيها قميص ولا عمامة. Then he should be shrouded in 3 white garments, of which none is a long shirt or a turban. He should be wrapped by those sheets. He should be wrapped by those sheets. Okay. So he should be shrouded in 3 white garments. 3 because Aisha radiallahu anha said, كفن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في 3 أثواب بيض سحولية ليس فيها قميص ولا عمام. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم was shrouded in 3 white garments or white pieces of cloth. Sahuliya could mean either made of cotton, or could mean white, or could mean from a certain place in Yemen. But the point here is that they were cotton and they were white. The sheets that the Prophet ﷺ was wrapped in. So they were cotton and they were white. That's what Aisha radiallahu anha said. So the sunnah is to wrap, that is the sunnah, preferred, not necessary. The sunnah is to wrap the body in 3 white pieces of cloth that are made of cotton. White in particular has been emphasized by the Prophet ﷺ. البسوا من ثيابكم البياض فإنها خير ثيابكم وكفنوا فيها موتاكم. Hadith Ibn Abbas. Wear white garments, because these are your best garments, and shroud your deceased ones in white as well. So the white is preferred, and we said cotton, and certainly they should be clean. Then, of which none is a long shirt or a turban. It is preferred that they are not form-fitting. It is preferred that we have sheets, no form-fitting, clothes, but rather sheets to wrap the deceased, because that is more befitting of the situation. That's more befitting of the situation. And it is befitting of the situation also that we exercise moderation. We're recognizing we're not being too stingy here. We're recognizing that we must honor our brother or sister. There is more to humanity than the flesh and blood, but at the same time, the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تغالوا في الكفن. He said, إذا كفن أحدكم أخاه فليحسن كفنه. When one of you shrouds his brother, let him shroud him in a good kafan, with good shrouds. But he also said, لا تغالوا في الكفن فإنه يسلب سريعا. Don't exaggerate, don't overdo it in shrouding, because it will soon wear out. So we exercise moderation in this regard. But وَإِن كُفِّنَ فِي قَمِيصٍ وَإِزَارٍ وَلِفَافَ فَلَا بَأْسٍ. If he is shrouded in a long shirt, izar, and a shroud, like an overall garment on top, there is no harm. So if you put like you did not have the shrouds. People are poor. They don't have money to buy shrouds, particularly for takfeen. And the mayyit left, the deceased person left his own clothes. You could use them for shrouding. You know, izar, qamis on top of the izar, and lifafa is the wraparound garment, overall, an overgarment, you know, to wrap around the entire body. Then there is no harm in doing this as well. So the idea here is that you do things in a way that is not burdensome, particularly for the family of the deceased. If they're poor people, and the reason why, you know, is sometimes when you read our books, fiqh, sometimes you can't imagine where they're coming from because you've never lived their circumstances. So if you read, for instance, that if the mayyit was eaten up by, you know, predators, and the kafan, the shrouds are still intact, who would take them? If someone donated those shrouds, that person is more deserving of them. If they were not donated and they were taken out of the inheritance of the estate left behind by the deceased, then their price gets divided between the heirs according to their shares. That discussion itself, is it conceivable nowadays? Like, you know, is anyone worried about 3 pieces of white cloth, you know, that if someone donated them, we will give them back to this person, and if they were taken from the estate of the deceased, then we will divide them, just to sit down and do the division, you'll waste more money than the value of it. But for our fuqaha, they wanted justice to be established, even if this was hypothetical in their time, but they wanted to say, let us say that this actually did happen. Let us say that, you know, the predators or something ate up the body completely and then left the shrouds. And the shrouds now are being claimed by the heirs or the donor, if the heirs were poor enough that they could not afford to buy the shrouds, someone donated them. If someone donated them, they go back to the donor. If someone did not donate them and they were taken from the estate. That discussion itself, when you say to yourself, that's frivolous, don't say to yourself it is frivolous. Maybe it is frivolous to you, but it was not frivolous to them, and it was not frivolous during their times. It was basically their desire to establish justice. Okay, so here we're talking about poor people that would not have enough money to buy the shrouds. Then it is completely permissible and fine to shroud the deceased in their own clothes. And in this case, form-fitting is okay? Yes, form-fitting is okay. This is not like a prohibition like ihram. This is basically saying that it is preferable to be non-form-fitting, but it is not prohibited to be form-fitting. And then he said, وَتُكَفَّنُ الْمَرْأَةِ في 5 أثواب في درع ومقنعة وإزار ولفافتين. And the woman is shrouded with 5 pieces of cloth, a dress, a head cover, which is miqna'a, which is a little bit larger than the khimar, an izar, and 2 shrouds. So dress, miqna'a, which is a little bit larger than the khimar, izar, which is basically, which will go underneath the dress. The izar will go first. The izar will go first. The dress will go on top. The miqna'a will go on top. And then 2 sheets basically to wrap her with them. That is lifafatay. Because this was done to Kulthum, the daughter of the Prophet, radiallahu anha. Then he said, وأحق الناس بغسله والصلاة عليه ودفنه وصيه في ذلك ثم الأب ثم الجد ثم الأقرب فالأقرب من العصبات وأولى الناس بغسل المرأة الأم ثم الجدة ثم الأقرب فالأقرب من نسائها. Who should wash, pray, and bury? For a man, the one most entitled to wash, pray for, and bury him is the one who was appointed or whom he appointed in his will to do so. That is the wasi, the designee. The designee. So Hanafi, and we will talk about Hanafi and Maliki now, but this, because they disagreed here when it comes to the prayer. We're not talking about the washing. We will come and talk about the prayer. So he said the designee will come first, one, the designee. And then we said father or mother, if she is a woman, father and howsoever high it goes, mother and howsoever high it goes, and then daughter, son, or daughter, and howsoever low in the lineage it goes, and then you follow the same rules of inheritance. Whoever is closer of the paternal kin, then the maternal kin. The husband in the prayer comes before the ajanib, but after all the kin. So the husband is pushed back in the prayer after all kin, but before foreigners. So this is washing here, designee, father, son, etc. Why did they put the father before the son? Because why did they make this exception? Because in the order of inheritance, the son comes before the father, right? The son is the strongest in the order of, the daughter comes before the mother. Isn't that right? In the order of inheritance? In the power of inheritance. Who has more power to inherit? Because they say that when it comes to inheritance, the division is based on need. Because these are his little kids who will need the money versus his father or mother who are already, retired. Or they don't need the money. But when it is based on compassion, certainly the parents are more compassionate than the children. And here, it is about neither compassion. You want to honor the deceased. And who would honor the body more than the mother, or the father? So certainly they are given precedence because it is about honoring the deceased here. And certainly no one would be more compassionate than the parents. So he said ثم الأقرب فالأقرب من العصبات وأولى الناس بغسل المرأة الأم ثم الجدة ثم الأقرب فالأقرب من نسائها. For a man, the one most entitled to wash, pray for, and bury him is the one whom he appointed in his will to do so, then the father and the grandfather, then the closest of kin from the paternal side, and so on. For a woman, the one most entitled to wash her is the mother, then the grandmother, and then the closest of kin of the related women. And then anyone from the community, men for men, women for women, anyone from the community. And Imam Qudamah said, when it comes to the prayer in particular, we're not following this order. We're following a different order when it comes to the prayer in particular. This washing and shrouding and burial, this order applies. When it comes to, burial, certainly women will not be doing the burial, they will be doing the washing and the shrouding. But when it comes to the prayer in particular, this order will not stand. He said, إِلَّا أَنَّ الْأَمِيرَ يُقَدَّمُ فِي الصَّلَاةِ عَلَى الْأَبِ وَمَنْ بَعْدَهُ. However, the leader, the governor, is given precedence in prayer over the father and those after him. Over the father and those after him. So the governor will be here. Because it was reported that when Al-Hassan died, radiallahu anhu. Al-Hussein pushed Sa'id ibn al-As to lead the prayer, and he said to him, had it not been the sunnah, I would have not let you. And Al-Hussein was most deserving of leading the prayer for Al-Hassan, but Sa'id ibn al-As was the Emir al-Medina, was the governor of Medina. So he said to him, had it not been the sunnah, I would have not let you pray for him. Because certainly he was hired by, all the fitna. But that recognition from Al-Hussein that it is the sunnah to let the governor pray is what made the Hanafis put the governor first before anyone else. Okay, so let's say, so the Hanbalis are saying that the governor will come before, the Hanbalis will say that the governor will come before the father. But that means they excluded the wasi, which is the designee, the one who is designated by the deceased. Because Abu Bakr designated Umar to pray, and he was not closest of kin. So the designee, according to the Hanbalis, the designee is not basically overruled by anyone else, or the precedence of the designee is not overruled by anyone else. So Hanbalis will put the designee as number one. And then after the designee, they'll put the governor. That is the prayer only. The governor is not going to be given precedence in washing or shrouding or any of that. That is the prayer only, because we're praying in the masjid here. So if the governor is in attendance, the governor will pray. And the governor, if we have the Khalifa, then the Khalifa. If they have the Amir, then the Amir. And if they have basically Rais al-Haj, or or mayor, whatever. So then they say al-Wali, which is closest of kin. Closest of kin. Al-Wali is closest of kin. That is the order in terms of the Salah for the Hanbalis. The Hanafis will say governor, and then the Hanafis also add the Imam of the masjid. They give precedence to the Imam of the masjid over, they give precedence to the governor over the Imam of the masjid, but they give precedence to the Imam of the masjid over al-Wali. So they'll put al-Wali here, which is closest of kin. The Malikis, they didn't agree with us. We agreed with them. Okay, so we agreed with the Malikis. So the Malikis have the same order. The Hanafis have this order. The Shafi'is have an interesting order, because the Shafi'is make the closest of kin first. And then they put the governor, the wali, after the closest of kin. No one but the Shafi'is put the closest of kin before the governor or the wali. Only the Shafi'is in the Jadid, in the new version of the madhab, put the governor after the wali. Put the wali after the wali. Put the governor after the closest of kin. Is this clear? And certainly all of this is about the order of preference. But if people come in the masjid, and because we don't have a qadi here, and the qadi can enforce his own version on people, we don't have a qadi here. If the people bring their relative and they want to lead the prayer, like if they want to lead the prayer, and the imam feels that I should come first, because if the imam happens to be Hanafi and believes that I have precedence over the closest of kin, we should be flexible. we should just allow the father or the son or whoever is closest of kin, if they really desire to lead the prayer, just be flexible. Because if they lead the prayer, there is no harm. The prayer is valid. Everybody will go home happy, and so on. So we should just show flexibility, because none of this is set in stone. The Prophet did not sit down with his companions and say to them, it is first al-wasi and then al-wali and then al-wali, or first al-wasi and then al-wali and then al-wali. This did not happen. This is the scholars after, many, many decades, couple hundred years sometimes, they are sitting down and filtering all the reports and trying to make sense of them and to put the order together. So we should show flexibility, because the spirit of the situation should be spirit of mercy and compassion, and this mercy and compassion should be shown mostly and firstly to the kin, the relatives. You know what? This is amazing. I didn't think that we would finish washing and shrouding this quickly. We still have 10 minutes. We actually have more. We have 15 minutes. So if someone has the book, I can start to go over some of the prayer, because I didn't have it here. Okay, let's go over the funeral prayer. And then, so whatever we will cover now, we will basically recap next time, but without details. So then, afterwards, now we are done with the washing, we're done with the shrouding. Afterwards will, be the salah. Then he said, وَالصَّلَاةُ عَلَيْهِ يُكَبِّرُ وَيَقْرَأُ الْفَاتِحَةَ ثُمَّ يُكَبِّرُ الثَّانِيَةَ وَيُصَلِّي عَلَى النَّبِيِّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. So as for the prayer, as for the funeral prayer, يُكَبِّر. He started with takbir. يُكَبِّر ويقرأ الفاتحة ثم يكبر الثانية ويصلي على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. ثم يكبر ويقول the dua. ثم يكبر ويسلم تسليمة واحدة عن يمينه ويرفع يديه مع كل تكبيرة. So he said here, Imam Qudamah said here, this description of the salah is the Hanbali description. You could say that this is the majority description as well. You cannot really say it's the majority description, because the Malikis and Hanafis, they both do not recite al-Fatiha. They don't, yeah. You're disappointed. But anyway, most of them do, because like I said before, when some people do one thing and other people don't do it, eventually everybody starts to do it, because people are prone to action versus inaction. Like when people see you raise your hands, even though they learned that you don't raise your hands, you find that naturally everybody starts to raise their hands, because it's just like, I'm not going to just, I'm not going to miss out on this. Anyway, but then, so this description is basically the Hanbali and Shafi'i the description. Okay, so first it will be takbir. Okay, then you will have the second takbira, third takbira, fourth takbira, and then taslim, right? This is how we pray the funeral prayer. Takbir, second takbira, third takbira, fourth takbira, and then taslim. And the Hanbalis and Shafi'is, after the takbir, and we said here that when it comes to the position of the deceased, if the deceased is a male, where is the imam going to be standing? The head will be in front of the imam. If it is a female, the middle of the body. and the head will be on the right side. The head will be on the right side and will be standing in the head will be on the right side in both cases, male or female. But when it is a male, the head will be in front of him, and the feet will be there, and the head will be here, and the feet will be there. If it is a female, it's just that the Imam will take one step towards the left and stand. Why is this? To provide the female more privacy from the crowds and behind him. Because if he stands in the middle, he's covering more of her body, so provide her more privacy from the crowd behind him. Anyway, so this is where he's standing, and then he will make takbir. The first takbirah will be, takbirat al-ihram, sort of takbirat al-ihram. But the difference between this and the other salawat is that the 3 other takbiras are all obligatory as well, and if you leave them out intentionally, you will have to repeat the prayer. But if you leave them out and you make taslim and you get reminded quickly, you could make the missed takbirah and make another taslim, and that would be a good makeup. So between the first takbirah, number 1, and number 2, there will be al-Fatiha. Fatiha. Between the second takbirah and the third takbirah, there will be a Salah al-Ibrahimiyya, Durud Sharif, whatever it's called. So you will, the Salah al-Ibrahimiyya, And then send peace and blessings onto the Prophet ﷺ and his family, between the second and the third. Between the third and the fourth, this will be supplication dua for the deceased. Between the fourth and taslim, what are you going to do here? According to the madhab, nothing. But there is also a position inside the madhab that you will continue with dua. If the imam gives you a lot of time between the fourth and the taslim because the imam is busy making dua, continue to make dua, because instead of being idle, just continue to make dua. If the imam, if the period between the fourth and taslim is short, don't worry about it. So supplication will be between the third and the fourth. Therefore, give more time between third and fourth, because this whole thing is about praying for the deceased. Praying for the deceased is basically what this is for. We're praying for him. This is a prayer for this particular person. So give more time between the third and fourth, because it is the time for dua and time of supplication. Fatiha, the recitation of Fatiha, why is it, how could they differ over something of this nature? Why would they differ over something of this nature? It's like something basic, and the reason why they differed, and the problem is when you study according to one madhab and when you study one opinion, you will be just, surprised. How could there be any difference or any disagreement? So here, for instance, the Hanbalis and Shafi'is will say that Abdullah ibn Abbas, and this is reported authentically, it's reported by Bukhari, that Abdullah ibn Abbas prayed, and after the prayer, prayed the janazah prayer, and after he finished, he said, he prayed the janazah prayer, and he recited al-Fatiha, and then he said, لِيَعْلَمُوا أَنَّهَا سُنَّةٌ, for them to realize that it is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Sunnah here does not necessarily mean mustahab or preferred, for them to realize that this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ, to recite al-Fatiha in the janazah prayer. Add to this the fact that this is also a salah, and the Prophet ﷺ said, La salata illa bifatihat al-kitab, no salah is accepted without the recitation of Fatihat al-kitab, of the Fatiha. You combine these, and then you're quite comfortable that any other opinion must be wrong, right? Because Abdullah ibn Abbas is authentic, it's Bukhari, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he knows better than you, he said it is the Sunnah, and the Prophet said there is no Salah without Fatihat al-Kitab. All done. I don't even want to listen to any other argument. But why did the Hanafis and Malikis not recite al-Fatiha? No malice to the Sunnah or to the Prophet ﷺ or anything. It's just the fact that Nafi' said that Abdullah ibn Umar used to pray al-Janazah and he never recited anything. He never recited al-Fatiha. So when Nafi' says this from Abdullah ibn Umar, and Malik is reporting from Nafi' directly, Malik reports from Nafi' directly. This is called the golden chain, Silsila al-Zahabiyya. When Malik reports from Nafi', Nafi' reports from Abdullah ibn Umar, it doesn't get any more authentic than this. Because Nafi' is a great scholar of the Tabi'een. Abdullah ibn Umar is Abdullah ibn Umar. Malik is Imam Malik. So Imam Malik is reporting from Nafi' that Abdullah ibn Umar never used to recite anything, and no one was more observant of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ than Abdullah ibn Umar. So the Hanafis and Malikis could say, we're done. We don't even want to listen to any discussion. So here, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said, so they differed. Some group said it is this, some group said it is that, and another group, a third group, which he sided with, said that it is preferable but not required. He figured this is the only way to reconcile between what Abdullah ibn Abbas didn't say, what Abdullah ibn Abbas didn't said, and what Nafi' reported from Abdullah ibn Umar. Maybe Abdullah ibn Abbas did something that was mustahab, and Abdullah ibn Umar did whatever is required. So in this way, Abdullah ibn Umar is right, and Abdullah ibn Abbas is right, and let us say it is mustahab to recite al-Fatiha to reconcile between their positions. That seems to be a very plausible position. But anyway, the division is this. Malikis and Hanafis, they don't recite al-Fatiha. Shafi'is and Hanbalis, they recite al-Fatiha. There is no reason to get too upset about it. If the Imam, the Imam will tell the people what he will do. If you want to recite it to yourself, recite it to yourself. If you're Shafi'i and or Hanbali, praying behind the Hanafi or Maliki Imam, recite it to yourself. But you don't even need to require the people to basically follow your method.
So do they supplicate?
Our supplication is by agreement. That is what the whole thing is for.
After the first takbir, the Malikis and the Hanafis, if they don't recite the Fatiha, what do they do?
It is all about supplication throughout the prayer. Yes. But the Fatiha, I recite it's not like I'm completely neutral here. I have feelings as well. I recited Fatiha. But the issue is, there is basically, there is room for disagreement here, because we're given conflicting reports from the Sahaba, and not any Sahaba from Abdullah ibn Umar and Abdullah ibn Abbas. So we'll have to figure out what we do. So some people followed Abdullah ibn Abbas, some people followed Abdullah ibn Umar, some people attempted to reconcile between them by sort of coming to a middle point between them, saying that al-Fatiha is preferable but not required. That whole order of things that, this was reported by Shafi'i and Tabarani. Shafi'i in his Musnad and Tabarani reported that, the Sunnah is to pray in this particular order. With the Fatiha after the first takbir, Salat Ibrahimiyya after the second, supplication after the third, and then fourth and taslim. This hadith is controversial. Some of the scholars authenticated it. A hadith reported by Shafi'i in his Musnad. Some of the scholars did not authenticate it. But that is why you find that the Hanbalis acted upon this hadith, so it makes sense that the Shafi'is and Hanbalis have a lot of agreement when it comes to the form or the description of Salat al-Janazah, because they both madhahib accepted this hadith that was reported by Shafi'i in his Musnad. The Hanafis and Malikis did not necessarily accept it. I think that we are, we have 1 minute, but let's, finish early today. قولوا قولي هذا استغفر الله لي ولكم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك اشهد ان لا اله الا انت استغفرك واتوب اليك. We'll take 5